Welcome in, everyone. Another episode of the Even Your Dynasty show. That was depressing.
Oh, that was, to say the least.
Yeah. I think Ricky said it best in our text chain of, I don't understand bringing in Nestor Cortez here, guy that hasn't pitched in a month, guy that tops out at like low to mid 90s, putting him up against Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman. It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Bold strategy, Con. Let's serve up a meatball right down the middle and with the bases juice. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, just brutal. And you know, it's like I was saying in the thread where I was like, I kind of understand it against Ohtani, but you needed more than just Ohtani, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
So because I think Cortez actually has a decent history against Ohtani, so I understood that one, but yeah. Having to get through Betts and Freeman behind him, that's just that's rough. So
to say the least, but no, honestly, Walking, that's like I felt like I got punched in the stomach watching that. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. As soon as he hit it too, you knew. I mean,
you knew.
Freddie's reaction, you knew. It was like, God, this was brutal. So that's rough. But everyone's popping in here. We're gonna go ahead and get going. We're going to have a little bit of fun with tonight's video, not taking ourselves too seriously. There's not a whole ton of Giants topics out there right now. Unfortunately, the offseason doesn't start until 5 days after the end of the World Series.
Yeah.
Until the Giants, hire a GM, there's not really much going on yet. So we're gonna have some fun. We're doing our 2024 first annual Even Your Dynasty. Can you say first annual when it's the first one?
It's the what is called the first ever.
First ever Even Your Dynasty Show awards for the Giants 2024 season. So we've got a list. A lot of these are more serious awards. A lot of them are kind of just a joke that we were coming up with something fun for the award. And then after that, we're gonna go through our top 3. It's gonna be 3 per position plus like an honorable mention, but we're gonna do the top surprises and disappointments, both in the position player group and in the pitching on the pitching staff. So we'll do that after the awards. But and Ricky may or may not join us. We're not really sure. Sounds like he's having an adventure with his DoorDash driver right now, so we might see him in a little bit. So.
I was gonna say it'll be. I feel like this is a perfect episode for a night like this, where Giants fans just kind of feel like we got punched in the stomach watching that game, and now we can kind of end it on a lighter note. So that'll be fun. And then you never know. Like if this goes well, and next season when Cody's got 15,000 subscribers. The 3 of us will wear tuxedos, top hats. We'll have the canes. We'll have the soundboard, all the effects and everything for the awards. I might even send them a trophy myself. So we'll end this on a good night.
Just ship the little tiny trophies over to Oracle Park and be like, for the label which player they go to.
Dude, I will get. They won't understand it when I say this, but I'll get the a little version of the Donnie Walton Award. And
that would be amazing.
That would be great.
Has there been a Donnie Walton bobblehead?
I don't think one exists. I don't think one exists. I don't want that in my house though. If it does,
that's awesome. Gonna set it right up here somewhere.
Yeah. Burn it.
God, that's just terrible.
Yeah, you guys don't know what that is yet, but you'll find out soon.
Yeah, you guys will find out. So we'll lead it off. We've got team MVP. You could go a lot of different directions with this one, and for the record, the player selected. This was purely my list. So if you don't like it, don't go after Dan on those ones. He will have an opportunity to retort on any of these if he feels like somebody else should. But team MVP, you could go a lot of different directions, but and I know we've harped on him with runners in scoring position. but I don't know how you really could go any other direction than Matt Chapman this last season. For the people that like WAR, he did put up a 7 WAR season, which is like one of the best seasons since like Posey's MVP season that the Giants have had out of a position player. 27 home runs, 35 doubles or 30 plus doubles. I mean, he had over 60 extra base hits this season.
Yeah.
The RBI total wasn't what we would have hoped out of a guy that, produced those offensive numbers. But, and he's also, he stole 15 bags, and I think he's also going to win the Gold Glove more than likely. So I couldn't really see anyone else that I could justify giving it to. He won the Willie Mack Award. It's just seems like one of the easier picks.
Yeah, I think we were in agreement as far as that award in particular, for the reasons that you touched on. Plus, even the intangibles, he stepped in and became, a leader on the team immediately, and it reflected throughout the whole season. So, offensively, I mean, you and I had a discussion earlier where it was like he wasn't great with runners in scoring position until like September. And then he started putting it together. But, offensively, numbers you just said, defensively, he was a guru out there, and then just becoming as a leader on the team. I think it's pretty unanimous. He was definitely the MVP of the team this year.
Yeah, he was their best player. It just wasn't particularly close. For a while there, Ramos was keeping pace with him. 78 RBIs was the final. I was curious what he ended up with, if he cleared 80 or not. And according to Baseball Reference, it was a 7.1 WAR. That's pretty nice.
Pretty good.
So,
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Let's see if you can replicate that one, everyone. there's Green. Pointed a little high. There we go.
Yeah, you're good.
Next one we got the Team Cy Young, which this actually I think is closer, and you could actually make an argument for two different people. I think had Webb had a season closer to what he put together in 2023, kind of regardless of what Snell did, in the second half, it would have been him, especially because Snell was a net negative in the first half. He wasn't even a positive contributor in the first half. But Webb did kind of take his lumps a little bit this season, and Snell really was just special in the second half. So
he was dominant.
I gave it to Snell. It was a little harder to debate that one than the MVP, but I did give it to Snell on that. He had a stretch of 5 or 6 starts that were as dominant as any starter I've ever seen in my lifetime. So
no, honestly,
pretty crazy.
Yeah, no kidding. And he said in the beginning of the year how he didn't feel like his body was right, and it kind of showed the first half of the season. He went on the IL twice, but once everything clicked for him physically, I mean, dude, he was the best pitcher in all of baseball in the second half of the season. So it was just, he was a joy to watch. So yeah, I think if you're just looking at it across the board, those two would definitely be the obvious contenders. But especially given that one game where we'll get to there shortly as well, it goes to Snell hands down. And I hope that we bring him back. I really do.
Yeah, and you see like the spot track estimates for him, and what they put 5 years, 144 million or something like that.
It was around that. It was like 5 or 6 years, like 138, 140 mil.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the deal, Giants
do it.
Sprinting to the.
I feel like all those spot track projections are a little low.
I think he gets more than that. I do think it'll be at least 6 years. I don't know if any teams, no one really seemed to want to go past 5 for him last season. But my gut says he doesn't hold out for those, 8 or 9 years like he did last season. My gut says if he gets 6, it'll just get the deal done.
My prediction was around like 6, 175, around that area.
Yeah. I mean, if it costs the Giants 6 for 200, do you do that?
I mean,
it's a bit stiff. That's what, 30.
Yeah, it's a bit stiff, but it's a little tempting. Not gonna lie.
Yeah,
But
it's a tough one. I mean,
I think the biggest thing for me is he's what 32, or is he going into his age 32 season, something like that.
I think it'll be his age 32 season will be next season. So 6 years gets him age 32 through age 37.
Yeah, and
Which
you
he
really
can-
want to
He's
be
got the stuff to
paying,
hold up, but
but do you want to pay 33 mil for a 36, 37-year-old?
no. I mean, it's not ideal, but the competitive balance tax ought to be up another in 6 years. It'll be up 15, 20 million.
You're
So
not
I
wrong
mean,
there. Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah,
So-
like Ed and Mike are saying, if you're going long term, I'd probably lean Burns. If you're going short term, maybe Snell. But I also think Burns is going to get over 200 mil.
I think Burns gets 7 years.
I could see.
I don't know what the money ends up being. I think it's 7, and then
I could see like 7, 210
210,
around that range. Yeah,
that makes sense. So
that's what I.
all right, moving on to rookie of the year. Well, this actually was a lot easier because I remembered that Elliot Ramos was not a rookie in 2024. He had exceeded his rookie eligibility. So that left really only one logical choice. And they did get some good production out of a variety of different rookies. Grant McCray showed up, did some stuff. A couple guys in the bullpen, Eric Miller, Landon Roop had a good year. Randy Rodriguez showed some good things. Birdsong, there were a lot of guys that showed some nice things as rookies. I think even Harrison was officially a rookie this season. Yeah. But I mean, Tyler Fitzgerald was the easy choice on this one once Elliot Ramos was ruled out. Tyler Fitzgerald went on one of the most insane tears of any Giant I've seen in recent memory. But he also, aside from that, the numbers don't necessarily jump off the page if you remove that. But he did do a lot of good things with the team. He had moments where he played some good defense. Then it kind of all fell apart at the end. But the speed really showed some good things. I think he had 17 stolen bases this season, playing essentially half a season. Because I don't know how many his final games were, but he was playing very infrequently for the first 3+ months of the season, and then before getting to everyday job. So to me, it was an easy one. Any disagreement on that one?
It's another unanimous one for the reasons that you said. I mean, and I was going to say it before you did, but that stretch you went on, I haven't seen anything like that from a Giant in a long time. It was insane. He would come up to the plate, and you were expecting a bomb. It was wild. Tommy Edmonds, who we want Fitzgerald to become. I want to be mad at that.
Watching him right now, yeah.
Yeah.
We would love for him to be a Tommy Edmonds caliber player. I mean, God, I was hoping for a Chris Taylor caliber player when coming into the season. So
I was hoping for anything above a Nick Ahmed level of player. So I was pleased.
Should have created an award for Ahmed.
You did come up with one. Remember the helmet?
Oh yeah. The biggest helmet to head ratio. Helmet size to head size ratio.
Yeah,
Nick Ahmed.
Nick Ahmed. That's hilarious. Yeah, when you sent that, I was like, this guy. I forgot you had that. Oh my goodness.
Oh god. Yeah, sorry everybody. It's all love in these in this award.
Or see, guys, we're trying to lighten the mood after the painful 10th inning that we just witnessed.
Oh god, that was terrible. Because it felt kind of wrong that Elliot Ramos wasn't qualified to be a rookie of the year. We went with breakout player of the year. It kind of had to create an award for him. He was that good. First homegrown all-star since Chili Davis. Probably going to break the Giants, left fielder streak that they've had going for quite a while now. He's going to play, likely going to be the left fielder next season. Wouldn't be shocked if he's a left fielder the following season. Now the problem is he actually might get kicked over to right field because he's pretty solid defensively, both in left and in right. So there's a possibility he doesn't end that streak, but he also potentially could end the 30 home run streak if he gets a full season in the majors. He did get to 30 if you combine his major league stats and his AAA stats. I think he hit 30 on the nose because I believe he had 8 in AAA. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see. Now, I do think he, falls into the I do think he's going to fall into the 25 home run range, if I had to guess, but he's definitely capable of eclipsing that 30 homer mark at some point in his career. So we'll see. But I had to kind of create an award on that one. He deserved it. He was so he carried the offense for like a month. I mean,
literally,
he really did.
It would have been nice to see what he can do had he not injured that thumb. I really wanted to see what his offensive production would have looked like during that time as well. Because I mean, there was a point in time where he was trending 30 plus bombs and 100 plus RBIs, like even in his shortened season, just because of how great he was offensively. So he did kind of slow down a little bit once he had that nagging thumb injury, and I don't think he was ever fully healthy the rest of the season. But no, just in general, I mean, especially when you compare like where what he went through his first, year or two, having a taste of the big league level, and him literally being labeled a bust at this time last season by fans, and then just really seeing what he flourished into this year, it was just a sight for sore eyes. So, yeah, bravo.
I think, Ed, I do believe Jung Hoo Lee eclipsed rookie status. He has 145 at bats. I cannot remember the exact number for rookie status, but
yeah, he does not qualify as a rookie next year.
Yeah. Did you just find it?
I'm looking it up, but I remember seeing
the mic better.
Little staticky, I'm not sure what's going on with it.
Here. I'll jump out and I'll just jump back in.
I feel like you're not even hooked up to it, honestly. Sort of
nice.
Sounds like.
All right, I'll hop out and hop back in.
Yeah, I got it from here. No, I do remember seeing somewhere, because it was asked early in the year if next season, if he is, eligible as a rookie, and they had said no. So I believe, something, whether it was like international rules plus the amount of at-bats that he had, something along those lines. But no, he doesn't qualify as a rookie next year, sadly. So here's hoping, in my eyes, in my dreams, in a perfect world, Bryce Eldridge comes up, earlier in the year and just absolutely mashes, and then boom, rookie of the year contender right there. So that'd be great to see. What was this one? Best pitch grunt of the year. Yeah, you're not wrong. Robbie was like known for that pitch grunt, and a lot of fans were annoyed by it, but a lot of fans loved it. I'm kind of like in between, so I don't really know what to think about that one. But sad. Yeah, I know, Grand. Indeed.
Best grunt of the year, Robbie Ray.
Hey, now you're good.
Better? Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I noticed it when you first hopped in. That's why I shot the text real quick. But
yeah, I just saw it and I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, but now you're much better now.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, we were talking about Robbie Ray, best pitch grunt of the year.
Yeah. I was sitting third row when he got injured in Seattle. I mean, it sounded like a tennis match up there.
I bet, dude.
I got nothing against the guy. Hopefully he does a good job next season, though.
Yeah, he's likely going to opt in. So,
yeah, for sure. I don't see any universe he doesn't. So,
yeah.
Next we've got reliever of the year. To me, this was a pretty easy one. Ryan Walker. We could, we did the Cy Young, but we wanted to do something, show the bullpen some love. So we did reliever of the year. Ryan Walker was really good in every role
Really
they
good.
threw him in. He was a, early inning, not early inning, but like middle inning stopper. He was the setup guy. He ends up being the closer. I mean, he did everything.
Everything.
And he deserves some love. He was awesome. And he's going to go into next season as the closer.
Yeah.
And the stuff in a vacuum, his stuff isn't like otherworldly, but when you have that much run on that sinker or two seam, whatever you want to call it, and then that much horizontal break the opposite direction on that slider from that crossfire delivery, it's pretty nasty. And yeah, it's just, you can tell not a lot of guys pick him up, and he throws a lot of pitches that aren't necessarily great location wise, but because of that, the tunnel with the ball just darts like 2 feet opposite directions.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy how
I
effective
was
he is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, have you seen those like clips where they show just the trajectory on his pitches and the different like his arm angle and the way dude, it's insane.
You guys have a most ownage against a player award. I know who it should be.
Who's yours, Ed?
Yeah, let's hear it, Ed. We'll add your award into this.
Yeah, I'm curious what you got.
We'll move on, and then we'll jump in when we see.
Well, I before we move on, I do want to touch on the bullpen a little bit more because yes,
Yeah.
Ryan Walker absolutely deserved it, but I think an honorable mention that should get some love was Eric Miller, man. He was phenomenal for being a rookie.
For sure.
He looked great. So I was really impressed with him throughout the season.
Yeah. Well, lefty versus Ohtani. Oh god, Taylor Rogers. Oh no, Eric Miller against. I thought you were thinking like I was thinking Ohtani owning Rogers because I swear he gave up like 2 or 3.
And that's what I'm saying, dude. That's why he deserves some love because he had a great year.
Maybe he's the guy that's going to face Ohtani every time in a late inning situation.
We should get Eric on the show.
Yeah, we should. I'll add him to my list to message.
There you go. Yeah, you got a pretty hefty list, Foreman.
Yes, we do. I do love me some Eric Miller. That guy, he has some filthy stuff. I think he got it up to 5, Ed. I think he might have been over 5 with 5Ks by the end of the season. I could be wrong. Somebody's gonna have to check that split for me, but I think it might have been 5. I think he did 3 in one series, though.
Yeah, I think it was 3 in a series, 5 total.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
Definitely. No, I like Eric Miller. We're going to talk a little bit more about him later as well. Play of the year. I don't think there's any question what this was.
The Chappie.
Yeah. That Chapman, the bare hand playing way deep, because that was the thing. When I saw the play live and they, I don't remember who the hitter was, but he rolls it over to third and you see Chapman charging in. And to me, it looked kind of like a normal play on just live. It was really great play, but kind of it's one that you see Chapman make a lot.
Yeah.
And when they showed the back angle where they were showing like how deep he was playing, I'm like, that's not normal. that's like really not normal.
And he's touched on it. He's touched on the fact that he recognizes that he plays deep, and it's for those reasons it allows him to, come in on those grounders, and he can angle them certain ways. He can, determine exactly like how he's going to get his glove, where he's going to backhand it, where he's going to underhand it, where he's going to barehand it. And because of that force momentum, he can get a lot more power on his throws. But I don't talk about my experience, but I played third base for 8 years up until college.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing with him. He plays so much deeper than your prototypical third baseman. But like you just touched on, just the fact that he was able to come in on that little dribbler and just make it one hell of a throw. And the call was electric, and it was that game itself. That game itself was insane. Yeah, that was awesome.
I rewatched that play recently, and I was laughing because they're all like, it was just such a great call by Fleming. And then all of a sudden, I think it was Pence pops in. He's like, "Put it like a booger," when they're talking about Wade. I'm just dying. Just killed me. But it was it was a great play on both ends. I do have to give Lamont Wade Jr. his love, because on the back end of that, if he doesn't make that pick, it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
So great pick on his end. We get on him a bit at first base defensively, but that was a really solid play. And really, he's just an average first baseman defensively. He's not terrible or anything. But had to give an honorable mention. Oh, actually, I'll finish my last thought on Chapman. It was honestly, it's the greatest play I've seen to end a game in baseball. The greatest defensive play I've personally witnessed that ended the game right there. So that was just the last thing I was going to say on that. But an honorable mention to a play that I think many people forgot, because it was in a pretty forgettable series where they went to Philadelphia and just got spanked by the Phillies for 4 games. But Jung-Hoo Lee made one of the best catches in center field I've seen in a while from a Giants center fielder.
That left center backhand?
Yes. Like he snow coned a backhand.
Yeah.
Got quite a reaction out of Jordan Hicks, who said holy expletive.
Yeah. No, that was
didn't need John Boy to read those lips.
No, you didn't. That was one of the things that I loved about Jung-Hoo Lee, like just seeing him defensively, because he's not like, he's not like a super speedy threat. Like he's more so fast than quick, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the way that he is like defensively, he covers a ton of ground. He's got a great first step. He's got a great read off the bat, and that allows him to be fast defensively speaking. But yeah, he covered so much ground on that play. I forgot about that.
Anybody who rewatches that play, just check the route he takes.
Yeah, beautiful route.
It is a straight line. It is just there are no missteps. Because if he misstepped even once, that ball was in the gap. It was 100%, 2 or 3 bags easy.
It's one of those routes that Wade Meckler can only dream of.
I almost was going to bring up Meckler kicking the ball around in left center last season. And I was going to be like, now let's go revisit the other one, the inside the Parker from Harper.
And
I was trying not to pick on Wade.
No, you're good. Another play that I don't think got enough love was Matos's robbery in center field.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was like the situation, because he had just came in and filled in for Lee like a week after Lee had injured his shoulder on the exact same type of play. And mind you, Matos isn't really known for his defense. And that robbery was nasty.
Yeah. Didn't he rob another one like that week? Might have even been the same series. Like he had like 2 robberies in one series.
Yeah. It was unheard of.
Yeah. He's playing well in Venezuela. For anybody that's keeping an eye on him, I think he's hitting like 290.
That pimp job was
or 880 OPS or something like that.
Yeah,
and the winter ball in Venezuela, like it's not a walk in the park league. Like there's some good players that go out there. So, good to see.
Yeah, that clip that you sent me, was it yesterday or the day before? You're like, I think Matos hit a bomb. I was like, yeah, you think so?
He had to have. It was on his Instagram story for anybody that that follows a lot of Giants on Instagram. Matos, like the first video on his story was just him like throwing a bat at the dugout, showing a ton of emotion, and I'm like, pretty sure this dude hit a bomb tonight.
He literally carried the bat to first base, like just looking at the dugout and just going crazy. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I think he hit a bomb.
Yeah.
And I think I also told you there. It is. I think I also told you, I was like, hey, that's like what Meckler does with a bloop single right there.
Hey, we have video evidence of Wade Meckler pimping a 14 hopper through the middle. So just bat flipping one to the dugout on a ball he hit.
Like, bro,
4 hopped or 5 hopped through the middle.
It's all good. It's all good, man.
All right, swing of the year. You could make a case for, you could make a case for Chapman's inside the Parker. You can make a case for Brett Wisely hitting a walk-off off of, Blake Trinan against the Dodgers. You can make a case for Patrick Bailey hitting a grand slam to flip a game in New York for another year in a row. There's a case you can make for a lot.
There's only one, though.
there's only one that really has to win that award, and that would be the guy that did something no one ever has done before. And when you've done something that nobody's ever done before, including in batting practice, you win. And that's Elliot Ramos hitting the first splash hit from a right-handed hitter off a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And best part about it, tied a game in the 9th inning. Now they went on to lose that game. Would have been cooler if it was a walk-off, but I mean, I don't care. If you come up in a clutch situation and you put one in the bay to tie a game, that's awesome.
Imagine if that was a walk-off, though.
Dude, that place would have gone. I mean, the place went nuts as it was for a game-tying home run.
Erupted. I would have loved to hear Kipe's call for that.
Yeah.
I
mean, they were both in shock. I don't know if you've gone back and re-listened to that.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, now there's only one question.
when Ramos is rounding third, you can hear Kruko. He was like, "Did that go in the water?"
Yeah,
like he was shocked.
I think all usually catches it earlier, so it didn't.
It was like cloudy that day. That's why you couldn't even see it. But
when I saw it flying out, I was like, I'm pretty sure it went into the water. Like I was pretty sure it did.
I texted you guys.
How many times have we seen the ball like skip off that walkway back there? Mm-hmm. So it's like, God, did it get there?
Yeah, I texted you guys when that happened, and I was freaking out. I was like, I think you just hit one in the bay. I think it was a splash hit. Yeah. But they didn't have like the official word until like 5 minutes after.
Yeah. I love how like all the guys too were like standing up on the they were all on the edge, like watching the thing, waiting to see.
They had that awesome camera angle of Ramos like leaning over the dugout, just watching the screen.
Yeah,
good times.
Dude's got skill, man. He's got talent.
He's got so much pop. He's got so much pop.
I hope he ends up being a 30 homer guy. I hope he breaks a streak. You know, I don't like to play favorites, even though I do a lot, but I don't like to play favorites, but I genuinely hope Ramos is the guy that breaks that 30 home run streak. It'd be awesome. Yeah. Just everything he's gone through.
Honestly, you're not wrong. I think realistically speaking, man, you can have, you know, just going based off of who's on the team right now, like not considering free agents, there's like 2 or 3 guys that could hit 30 next year, realistically.
Yeah.
And I hope that
one of them just got pulled out of the fall league.
That's
I don't know if he'd do it next year though. Nice. Probably not next season, but
that'd be crazy though if he did.
That'd be nuts. Rookie of the year, get that player promotion incentive.
Dude,
get the 32nd pick or whatever or 31st or 32nd pick in the draft. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It'd be. I mean, Chapman almost did it. If he didn't slump, he probably would have.
Yeah.
Ramos, if he played, you know, the whole season, he probably would have.
Yeah.
I think it'll be something similar with Bryce. Like if Bryce comes up in, you know, May or June and hits like 24, 25 bombs, we're all just gonna be like, man, what if he came up in, you know, in April?
Why? I've as much as I don't want to care about the whole player promotion incentive thing, like it just makes it so enticing to get these guys up service time and just get them up early.
And I hope, you know, with Posey being the new Pobo, like he doesn't take advantage of the whole service time thing like Farhan was notorious for, and he just puts the best player on the field.
Yeah.
That's what I hope for.
Exactly. And you know, at the end of the day, I want to see Bryce earn it. I want to see him come up because he shows he's ready. I'm not going to force a guy on early. And I don't believe in holding him back if he's, you know, just for the sake of getting at bats. The one thing I mentioned, not to get too down this rabbit hole, because we were going to talk a little bit about him later, but the one thing I do see with him is, you know, you look at a guy like Jackson Merrill, who came up after not playing any time in AAA this season or last season. I mean, he had only played in AA, and he had 211 at bats or something like that in AA. And, you know, Bryce only has 75 in AA and AAA. And then he got another, I don't know, 50, probably 40 or 50 in the fall league. Well, he played 10 games, probably 40. So
it He was like 42 or 44, something like that.
Yeah, so there's definitely a case to keep him in, in the upper minors for at least a month or two. Let him get 100 bats, 200 bats.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he shows up to spring training, he just crushes the ball start to finish, and I care about how they finish because early in spring pitchers are working on things, but it's just if he carries it all the way through, like don't hold him back just for the sake of holding him back and saying, well, like our everything says that they need this many at bat. Like don't. If he shows he's ready, he's ready. Some guys are just different. He just might be one of those guys. I'm never going to predict a guy is, but he might be.
I mean, dude went through 4 levels this year alone, and he held his own at each level. He exceeded at each level.
Yeah.
And mind you, there's small sample sizes, but still, like,
19-year-old
going from single A through triple A and the fall league, like, that's unheard of.
Ed asks if the player promotion incentive is easier with a pitcher. Maybe not. I mean, there's not enough history really. But I mean, just one thing to keep in mind is 2 years ago, Corbin Carroll and Gunnar Henderson won it. Yeah. And because they were on their opening day rosters, the Orioles and Diamondbacks had those 2 picks right after the first round. So, I mean, it's such a good incentive if that you're, and I don't know, I think you get different rewards based on if they even get votes, if they get like MVP votes, if they get, I don't know what the rewards are for everything. I know that if they win Rookie of the Year and they're on the roster the whole season, they'll get you get those you get a pick right after the first round, which that is like a significant thing to receive. So, I don't know because there's just not enough sample size there. The one thing with pitchers is a lot get shut down early though.
Yeah.
So it might be more difficult for them to win. I don't know. Maybe that's just me speculating.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Especially because imagine if Skeens started the season on the, on the major league roster, if they shut him down like on the same amount of innings. So like he only went to like July. It's like, would he still really win it over Jackson Merrill? I mean, he's going to probably win it anyway over him in less innings, or not a lot of innings, but it's tough,
true.
man.
It is.
So
it is.
Back to the awards though. We have the game of the year, which I felt like this was there were really only 2 games that you could pick from to me that fit.
I kind of touched on one already.
Yeah. And that's the one that's going to have won it. The honorable mention, the one that really could was probably that Mets game where they were down 3. Bailey hits a game flipping grand slam, and then I think Yaz hit a home run right after. They got to up 2 runs. Then Camilo did Camilo things in the 9th, and Chapman makes that spectacular play to end it. I mean, it was just an up and down game that was pretty insane. So a case could be made for that. But I mean, a dude threw a no hitter.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of just like back and forth excitement, like that's what the New York one was. That was just a thriller throughout. But a no hitter is a no hitter. So,
and it was on like a stretch of like 4 comeback wins in a row when they won. Remember they won like 2 games in Pittsburgh coming from behind, and 2 games in New York coming from behind.
We
started a lot of excitement in that stretch.
We started to develop some hope during that stretch.
Yeah. Don't give me hope. Hey, Ricky made it.
Yo.
What's up, guys?
DoorDash finally showed up.
Dasher found their way there.
Yeah, about time.
Yeah.
About an hour later.
Yeah, it's all good. Next award we had was the WTF is Happening award. To me, this is where we're just having a little bit of fun with some of these. That it's got to be Fitzgerald's random stretch that he went out there looking like Barry Bonds, where you're like, there's this little twig of a guy that's hitting everything over the fence for like a week. He had 7 and 10 days, 5 straight days. It was 5 straight games, 7 and 10 games, and 11 and 17 games.
Yeah, unheard of.
Yeah.
It's Fitzmagic, man. Isn't that trademarked?
It is, I
Like
think. But what was that name you started saying? You were it
It was
was
Barry Lamar Fitzgerald.
Barry Lamar. Yeah, there you go. Pretty fitting.
Yeah. So now we have the fun one. Dan mentioned it earlier. We have the Donnie Walton Award. And what the Donnie Walton Award stands for is the player that Farhan decides to acquire multiple times because he just can't quit you. A lot of people will get that reference. And that award doesn't go to Donnie Walton because they didn't acquire him a second time this season. He was already with the club. That award goes to Mr. Tom Murphy, who also would have won the award for most likely to four-hop a ball into center field. Tom Murphy.
I got another one for that award. Alex Young.
Yeah.
Alex Young.
Dang, that would have been more random player. We should have used him.
That's a good one.
Everybody would be like, who?
Yeah. It's the same reaction everybody would give Donnie Walton if he wasn't like the poster child for Farhan doing those things.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone knows how I feel about Tom Murphy. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
Hey, there's always that guy.
Always that guy.
All right, now this is the one where we're probably gonna have a nice debate on this. We have the most random player award. So if I went like most random player to hit a home run for the Giants, it's gonna be Jackson Reeds easily. But I went with just most random player. And for me personally, I gave it to Raymond Burgess, who actually started a game, made one appearance through an inning, and then they shipped him off. Yeah, I don't even know if he got lit up. I think he gave up a run, right? I don't know. It's against the Cubs. It was very forgettable. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
There are a lot of candidates.
It's unreal. What's that game, the baseball grid or whatever that people were doing for a while there? If you're a Giants fan, you could nail those every time with all the random players that have been on the Giants and like 10 other teams.
Yes. If other teams know who the Giants have filtered through, they could definitely do it too because it's just brutal. See, yeah, you know what? Hey, this is fair, but Bivens was actually like a contributor this season.
Yeah.
So, and
I don't know.
I'm
trying to think of one that you guys haven't said.
I'm gonna be honest. I've watched. I mean, Mitch White. He appeared for the Giants a few times.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, you could always go with the legend Trenton Brooks. Actually, I got an award for Trenton Brooks. Most impressive at bat of the season award.
Dude,
striking out on 2 pitches.
Man.
The old 2-pitch see ya.
That was pathetic.
I think we deserve another.
Someone had to have done it before.
It's very possible. I think the Giants deserve the Giants fans deserve another World Series just for all the crap and weird players we've had to watch over the last 5 to 6 years.
100%. We could go. We could do. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I can name like 5 random players just in the last 13 months that we've had.
Yeah.
Just imagine compiling a team with a Mark Mathias, Trent Brooks, and Alex Young, Jackson Reeds. That would be the best.
Cal Stevenson.
Cal Stevens. That'd be the best. One of the better softball teams, like the men's softball leagues. Ricky, you would probably beat them, but it'd be a good game.
On Ricky's team. I'm gonna go most impressive feat of the season. Like most impressive Oh, I had it too. I'm just drawing a blank now. Because I used the Trenton. I already used the Trenton Brooks strikeout. What was I going to use? I don't know. It'll come back to me, I'm sure. Ed, what do you got? Best move of the year award?
Oh,
I mean,
I got
Chapman.
that easy.
Or like the funniest move of the year.
Trading Austin Slater to the Orioles.
Slater, that was my one.
That was a great one.
The best the best accomplishment of the season. Austin Slater managing to have the same amount of facial hair hairstyles as hits for over a month.
It was like through mid-June, bro.
He had 3 facial hairstyles and 3 hits.
Another good feat would be Nick Ahmed played with every team in the NL West this year.
Yeah. Except
He
the
went from-
Diamondbacks, which is the only team that I think, right?
True. No, Diamondbacks let him go last season.
Yeah.
Well, technically, that's why I say this year, because it was at the beginning of this year.
Oh, yeah.
Technically. And then he went to us, and then where was it? LA afterwards.
Did you go to San Diego or Colorado?
He went to San Diego
Colorado?
briefly, and then he ended in Colorado.
He's just doing his rounds. Maybe the AL West will want him next season.
Yeah, hopefully.
There's been a few other players, not all in one year, but that have done that and made their rounds through the whole NL West. I think Giants legend Steve Finley was another one.
Steve Finley.
And I think he went through almost all within the back end of his career. He went through the entire NL West like Ahmed, just not as short of a time frame. It's crazy.
Steve
Pretty nuts.
Finley. Legend.
Yeah. I remember him leading the NL in triples, I'm pretty sure, when he played for the Giants. Just a weird stat that he racked up.
He's a really good player. Giants just got him when he was damn near useless.
Yeah. Oh, well, they were really good at getting those veterans back then.
I do
Fabian
think
had a type.
he did have a type. But just going back to the original award, I think getting anything for Austin Slater was a big win.
Who did we get back for Slater?
I don't know, but we got something.
Cash?
I really can't remember.
Hey, we got something.
I got
Could go
another
worst
random
move of the year, but I don't want to get pissed off, so I'm just gonna let it go. Checks what Austin Strickland's doing. Yeah, all right, cool. Thanks, guys.
We don't talk about that one. That's the worst move.
Easily. All right. Well, that's all I got for awards for this season. I don't know if anybody else has anything else they want to throw in there, but we'll jump over to biggest surprises, biggest disappointments. We did the position player group and we did one with the pitching group. Ed says Longoria was with the Pods, Giants, and D-backs. Yeah, that sounds about right.
He was,
especially at the end. Before we get into the biggest surprises and disappointments, if you guys do enjoy the content, I know today is just kind of us messing around. We don't have anything like hard set for today. Like we said earlier, not a lot of Giants stuff going on. We're waiting on the GM to get announced. We're working on trying to get some other, players, people to join the show for something like what we did with Jeff Young last week, which was a ton of fun. But if you do enjoy it, do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I think we're at like 897 or something. So we are creeping up on 900. We're going to figure out what we're doing for a giveaway because we are doing one at 1,000 and y'all keep getting us closer and closer way faster than, I think most of us anticipated. Shout out to Ricky's softball team and his family, apparently. And so go ahead and do that. But we'll go ahead and hit off the biggest surprises again. This is my list. These two guys are going to tell me where they think I'm insane, as well as you guys in the chat. And I will explain my reasoning, and then they can, add in people that they want. So biggest surprises, I'll start off there for the position player group. I think number one, as much as I was still a believer in the guy, no one really expected Elliot Ramos to do what he did and become what he was. this season. I mean, in a year, he went from a guy everybody was writing off. Well, not everybody, because I wasn't, but a lot of people were writing off, and including the team probably didn't, have a lot of belief in. I think that was pretty clear with Farhan, regardless of what he said. His actions said something different. Gitz was in like one of the first cuts out of spring training and then proceeds to cement himself as a fixture kind of going forward. And a guy that's probably going to be hitting either third or fifth next season, if I had to guess. So I think he was number one. Got any disagreements on that one? I can't imagine, but I think that's an easy one.
No. And I've even touched on in the past, it was pretty obvious when, Farhan was making an effort to play anybody but Ramos. Whether it was Jock Peterson, Blake Sable, AJ Pollock, like whoever he could throw out over LDA Ramos, he just wanted nothing to do with him. But luckily, luckily he was able to get an opportunity. Unfortunately, it came in such a way with injuries. But I'm they made the best. He's my number one too.
Yeah.
The only other one I think, Fitz to an extent. I mean, he was a little bit hotter more towards the end of the year, but the only other one I'd really throw in there is just Ryan Walker. Really, I think those are the only two.
Well, I'm going to do the pitchers
surprises.
too. Yeah, thought that'll be a separate one. So Fitzgerald was my number two. I think we all saw some flashes out of him. We thought he could be a good player. I said I thought he could be a Chris Taylor type. There's still some swing and miss with him. That's not ideal. But 15 homers, 17 stolen bases, took a lot of extra bags on the base pass. Now he did run into some stuff. I know Ed touched on it earlier. He had some pretty boneheaded plays on the paths. He got picked off a handful of times. I think he went 17 for 21 stealing bags. And I think at least 2 of those were getting picked off. Like, I don't even think they were necessarily a caught stealing attempt. I think he just got picked off. There were some bad things in there, but a lot of really positive things. And he does bring an element that this team badly needs. So Fitzgerald was my number 2. And then my number 3. Now, keep in mind, everybody, I did this relative to my expectations coming into the season. My number 3 was actually Matt Chapman, who I think we all thought was really good. And we all thought he was, he's a Gold Glove player and all that. But guy put up a 7 WAR season. I mean, he's going to probably get MVP votes for the season he just had. And it's pretty incredible. The year overall that he put together, as much as it wasn't perfect, it just had a great season. And I can't sit here and say I expected anything like that. So for him to put the season he did was definitely a surprise for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think it would have been reasonable to expect him to be putting up his early A's type numbers, with high 30s in homers and 120 RBIs and hitting for a relatively high average. That's not really the type of guy he is anymore. But ultimately, I think he kind of gave you pretty close to a best case scenario type season. Elite defense still, hit for a good amount of power, drove in a decent amount of runs. I think we've touched on it enough, but Giants kind of misused him in the lineup because they kind of had to out of desperation. But I think he exceeded all of our expectations for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily have him on my top 4, but when you guys put it that way, you're absolutely correct. Especially like you said, Ricky, it was kind of like going back to his early Oakland days, which was awesome to see.
Yeah.
So no, relative to what was to be expected, because I think when we first signed him, we were kind of, basing off of last year, and we're like, okay, yeah, if he gets, 15 to 20 bombs, that'd be cool. Weren't expecting nothing too crazy, but for him to put up 27 and, like you said, a 7 WAR season, that was just mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, his last 3 years, his production, like you saw his OPS drop into like the mid 700s. I think 1 year was actually kind of the lower 700s, but 3 straight seasons where the offensive numbers had declined. And I know last season he dealt with a finger injury and he was off to a scorching hot start when it happened. So, you know, if we want to throw out last year, 2023, I get that. But, you know, overall, like the numbers were going down. He was 31 coming into San Francisco where it's more difficult for him to hit. And I don't think I could have reasonably expected him to hit 27, 60 plus, you know, extra base hits, 15 stolen bags on top of the defense. It was just a lot of little things that he did. And, you know, Dan said it earlier. He kind of emerged as the leader of the team, or at least a leader. I mean, obviously, Logan Webb is clearly one of the leaders too. But, yeah, it just, to me, he exceeded like any expectations I had for him this season. So I had to throw him on there. And then I had an honorable mention of Casey Schmidt because he was so bad in 2023. And I mean, I hadn't given up on the guy, but not just what he showed in the majors, even though this is kind of what we're basing most of it off, but he took a big step forward in power. His plate discipline did improve. I've laid the numbers out in past episodes. Like he improved kind of across the board. Play discipline wise, he actually had, I think, over an 8% walk rate down in Sacramento. So just a guy that took a step forward and is clearly on an upward trajectory. And hopefully we can see more out of him next season, or he might be a trade candidate, you know, because he is blocked at third base now. So I would understand both ways, but kind of had to give him a shout out because he really, the difference you saw from 2023 to this season, I felt like was substantial. So
That's a good one.
Anyone else you guys want to add for the position player group?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, you didn't have a ton of standout guys in the lineup this year, so I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. All right, we're going to the disappointments on that end.
Here's where we can fill up that list for sure.
Yeah, with this one, 4 was kind of not enough, but we're 3 in an honorable mention. But number 1, Jorge Soler. Yes, they traded him at the deadline. They signed the guy, and the hope was that he would be a cleanup hitter. He ended up being their leadoff hitter for a while, and not a good one. Was one of the worst players with runners in scoring position we've watched in a while. I mean, the fact that him and Chapman were both up there hitting like 180 with runners in scoring position for a large portion of the season was a big part of why they struggled so much. But yeah, Jorge Soler was my number 1. Do you guys want me to just list all 4 and then touch on it? Okay.
Yeah, give your 4.
Number 2 was Tyro Estrada, who I don't think any of us expected him to be, you know, world beater or anything, but I mean, he's a guy that put up a 4-win, WAR season the year before, and he's always been a bit of a free swinger. That's been his thing. His defense was still really good this season, but I mean, his bat was borderline unplayable at times, and for a long time. And there's a reason why he got DFA'd, and it was rough. I mean, he was one of their better players for a while. Now, you dig in on 2023, the numbers took a big dive after June, but it was a tough watch. And then number 3, I mean, yes, he had the knee injury. I actually 3 and 4 I kind of waffled on, but 3 was Wilmer Flores. I don't care if he had the knee injury. The guy went from basically being the Giants' best player in 2023 to arguably their worst player in 2024. Speaking of unplayable, I mean, it was really rough. I know Dan is not a huge Wilmer Flores fan, but
No.
they really should have sold high on him. I get why they didn't, but it was rough. And then I did give an honorable mention to Jung Hoo Lee. It had nothing to do with his play on the field. Obviously, we would have loved to see more, but it was just a disappointment as a whole that he only made it through 40 games before getting hurt. So
I'll let you go, Rick. What do you think?
In the wise words of Dan, Wilmer Flores was who we thought he was. No. No, I honestly, Dan does not like Wilmer. not the hugest fan of him either, but I definitely expected him to get going at some point and at least put up, league average type production. Never found it, never looked right. I think we're all kind of frustrated with how they handled guys like him and Wade, both kind of rushing them back from injuries when that was always the excuse as to why they weren't producing at times, and then bringing them back, and then it's kind of more of the same for a while. Definitely is up there for me. I think with Jung-Hoo Lee, I think he very well might just need to start making some business decisions going forward on how he wants to take on those walls. Because, I mean, we've seen guys get career-ending injuries doing stuff like he was doing. Great defensive center fielder. Loved how he played. Loved the energy. Loved his approach at the top of the lineup. Very much looking forward to him coming back next year. But that was a huge hit to the lineup, just as far as, having a guy at the top of the order that could actually make contacts. I mean, that was just the theme of the entire season, just guys not being able to hit with runners in scoring position. And that was a huge part of it, just the high strikeout numbers. So those two are definitely top of my list.
And I definitely see where you're coming from with that. Absolutely. For me, it's gonna be for me. It's gonna be surprising. Wilmer isn't my most disappointing player, because in order to be disappointed in a player, you have to have expectations from them. So
I think I know who's at the top of the list then.
Who do you think? Let's see.
Your favorite catcher,
Patrick Bailey. Offensively, yeah, big time. I mean, defensively, yeah, he did his thing. He's likely going to win a Gold Glove. Good for you. But yeah, offensively, I thought he would at least improve compared to, his rookie year. If anything, he got worse offensively, and you can even look up the numbers. He got worse offensively, worse at the plate. So, but no, I honestly. There's a few names that you could say. My biggest disappointment was Tyro by far. Tyro, he looked like a shell of himself in the span of a year. I have no idea what happened there. And then, I think you'd go Tyro, Bailey, and then I was kind of disappointed with Wade as well. He just didn't really seem right once he came back from the IL. I mean, he kind of does it every year where he starts out pretty hot and then kind of falls off a cliff. But this is an interesting comment, because this is one that this is everybody's reasoning and justification for Wilmer. Like everybody, they say, oh, he's a great leader in the clubhouse and mentor for the younger guys. Great. What is that? It gets you. That can only get you so far. You can have any of these other guys be a leader in the clubhouse and mentor, but he's wasting a roster spot on your team, and he's getting you zero production.
I think there is a value into it, or in it, when you have like it's always been said that he was great for the young Latin players and things like that, because he could help them acclimate and all that. I think with the emergence of Elliot Ramos, Wilmer is no longer needed. If your goal was to have somebody to be a presence for those guys, yes, Elliot Ramos is not he's not an established veteran. He is a younger guy, but I do feel like that is the exact kind of guy that you want, not even just for the Latin players, like for all the young players to come in that had to get drugged through the mud, that had been put on the taxi squad, that had been, blocked with just countless players, and basically had to force their hand into making him the guy that came up when Lee got hurt, and then also had to force their hand into not giving them even an option to send him down. So I think with the emergence of Ramos, who does, obviously he speaks Spanish, he speaks English, he can relate to all those young guys. I just don't see Flores as having a spot. Like he no longer is needed even in the one role that everyone points to. It's kind of how I look at it.
Amen.
So
I think with Wilmer, the second he lost any bit of versatility on the defensive side of things, he became pretty useless. Obviously the biggest factor was his hitting significantly declining, but the fact that he's become completely unplayable pretty much anywhere other than first, he's become a very replaceable type of guy. I mean, even at first, I wouldn't say he plays even above average defense there. So it's kind of where we're at with him.
I think he's better than Wade, but that's
Not-
about it.
not
He's
a
better
high
at
bar.
picking the ball than Wade, but I think Wade's got a little bit more range. I mean, Flores, he let balls by him that he could have just fell on almost. I mean, it was pretty brutal.
I think
maybe if the knee was hurt, like I don't know.
I think 52-year-old JT Snow would be better than Wade and Wilmer at first.
Anyone know what kind of shape he's in? Maybe bring him back.
Oh, I was gonna make a joke. I was gonna say better than Bailey.
And no, I actually agree with Bailey's offense. Like, unfortunately, it really he looked like he was making progress early in the season.
Oh yeah,
God, I mean, it fell off a cliff again for the second straight season. I'm not going to get on his defense. I actually thought, as much as we are hard on him defensively, he did show improvement from 2023 to 2024 behind the plate. The throwing was much better. He didn't throw a bunch of balls into the outfield. Other than, once he got out of like that first week, he kind of toned down some of the arrogant decision making that he does. Not to say he stopped it, because that's still part of his game, and that's part of what's going to make him a really good defensive catcher for probably a long time. You don't want to completely get rid of that, but last season he was just making so many ill-advised throws, and he did cut that back. And even the blocking statistically, it took a little bit of a step forward. Now he still does a lot that bugs me when I watch him back there, where he almost treats the fact that he's a great framer and all these different things as an excuse to try and backhand balls in the dirt that don't have to be backhanded, that are balls he definitely could get in front of to block. So I'm not going to get on him on his defense. He's going to win the Gold Glove. He should win the Gold Glove. He was the best defensive catcher in the National League. Not particularly close. But I do think he's got a little bit of work to do to truly be in that, generational tier with a lot of the guys we saw in like the early 2000s, 2010s.
That's the biggest thing for myself personally. I think you guys can also agree to it. It's like a lot of Giants fans are just content. Like, he's a great framer and he can make good throws. Leave it at that. We don't need anything else to change. But Bailey has so much skill and talent defensively that it grinds my gears when he shows like those arrogant or lazy tendencies, which are just simple mechanics that he can improve on that would make him a well-rounded elite catcher. So it's like you just touched on, where it's like, if he thinks like, I'm a good framer, so I can get away with, getting away from the basics and trying to get too cute with it behind the plate. It's like, no, dude, it's you have so much talent and so much skill, and you're so young and clearly the best catcher in all of baseball. Why not take it from that really good, really great catcher to that, next step as far as being like an elite superstar level defensive player, by just fixing those little stupid tendencies that you lack on a consistent basis. So that's my biggest gripe. Everyone's like, dude, you hate Bailey. And it's like, yeah, I hate him because I shouldn't say hate, but yeah, I hate what he does because he can be so much better than what he is. Yeah. And it's like he chooses not to be. And that's what drives me crazy.
How many times have I said to people on X or different platforms, I'm like, yeah, how dare I want him to be the best version of himself he can be? Like,
every time.
It's not that I don't believe in the guy. It's that he has so much talent that it just frustrates me when I see little things like not dropping to your knees and blocking a ball in the dirt. Like it's just little things like that just bug me. And so many people are like, oh yeah, I mean, his one deficiency is the least valuable part of catching. And I'm just like, I don't agree. Like when it's coming down to trying winning games at the end of the day, 90 feet can matter. A run can matter. It's like there's just so many things that matter so much when the margins are so small with a team like the Giants. Like, yeah, a team like the Dodgers for 162 games could get away with a few more balls getting by Will Smith. Giants can't. They don't have that luxury. They're not that good. So it's just, I want to see that cleaned up because, frankly, if he can just be a little bit above average blocking balls, he's going to be, he jumps himself into that tier with guys like, Matheny and Benji Molina and probably closer to guys like Mauer back in the day. Like a lot of guys that were really elite defenders. And I think he's just like a small step below them right now until he cleans that up. And who knows? I mean, maybe he'll get better than that, and he might push himself closer to the better Molina and Posey and all those guys. But right now, he's definitely a step under, in my opinion, like a small tier below.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
not to
ultimately,
turn this into a Bailey debate.
No. I mean, ultimately, the thing is, it's like, of course, we want the guy to succeed. It makes team building for this team going forward so much easier if you have that position set in stone. I know a lot of Giants fans think that position is set in stone right now because of his defensive ability, but ultimately, if he continues to hit like he did this year, you cannot say that position is set in stone, plain and simple. And then there's very little depth behind him. So, like we've said, it's very possible that they go and draft somebody if he has another bad year, because ultimately the guy just hasn't proven that he's been in good enough shape to last the long haul of the season. And then as far as, the ball blocking goes, I mean, we can say teams like the Dodgers and Yankees can get by, but I mean, you look at the game tonight, that is the reality. A 3-2 game with guys on base, and you need to be very sound defensively because every single out, every single base runner, and every single run matters in these big games. And that's the thing, is you don't want to see the Giants get to that level in these big playoff games and then they lose a 3-2 game because that one guy got that extra 90 feet off of just, lazy technique with one leg out. It's little things like that. It's very correctable, and he can still be a very high level framer from a standard catching position.
Yeah. I think everyone knows how I feel about the one knee, and what bugged me was he had a lot that he didn't drop in front of, that even with the one knee down, it's like they were right in front of him, and or very like minimal off to his side, where he still has the lateral mobility even with the one knee down. Like it's just, you can at least be a decent blocker, even above average with it, if you just at least do what you're supposed to do. And it's frustrating. It is, but and I hope he can turn into a league average bat. Eric asks, like, do you think the switch hitting has an effect on his power on either side? He has pretty good power from the left side. I think that's pretty clear, but the right side, it feels like he has absolutely none. I don't think he hit any out this season from the right. I think he needs to just scrap that entirely. Personally, I think he should just completely stop switch hitting, just hit from the left.
Yep.
It would obviously be an adjustment for him. Yeah, I mean, we've harped on it. They need to just get a right-handed catcher, get someone to play 30% of the games, 35% of the games, and hopefully it'll help Bailey last throughout the season a little deeper.
That's what I've been saying since July. It's a very simple fix to the whole Bailey situation. One, he gets gas super, super quick, so let's platoon him. I mean, nobody likes platoons, but let's be honest, he's basically an automatic out when he bats from the right side. So what we do, you go out and get yourself a right-handed catcher that's competent defensively. So that means not Tom Murphy. You go after one of the two names that I mentioned, Travis d'Arnaud or Danny Jansen. And then that's what you do. You start Bailey exclusively against, right-handed pitcher. Let him bat exclusively from the left side. You bring in a Darno or something to fill in, like you touched on, 30-35% of the time to bat from the right side.
Yeah.
And then if you need to bring Bailey in as a defensive replacement, by all means, go for it. He's great defensively. But that way you have a balanced lineup on a consistent basis from the catching position. And then he's not going to get gassed by June 4th every year.
Yeah.
So I think it's a reasonable solution. It's something they should do. It's something they kind of planned on doing with the Tom Murphy signing that absolutely blew up in their face. But I mean, you have a real chance to go out and do it and get a much better right-handed catcher. And it's a win-win.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ricky.
And part of the reason I like the Darno idea too is because he comes from a situation where he's done exactly that.
Exactly.
They've pretty much everywhere he's been for the last 6-7 years of his career, he's been in a timeshare at the catcher position. I mean, they had the Contreras brother there before they traded him to Milwaukee, and they split time between the two guys. And even though he was the starter, they had Contreras playing a lot there because he showed off the bat a little bit, and you're giving both guys tons of rest to where they're always fresh. And I think that would help out Bailey's offensive game a ton. Yes, he is very valuable defensively, but if you're not getting the best of him 3 months into the season, it's time to reevaluate whether he needs to get on a different routine in the weight room and with his diet, or they need to find out how they can manage his playing time better to where he's not getting worn out. I think it's pretty simple. And then as far as the switch hitting goes, I kind of mentioned this earlier in the season, but it reminds me a lot of Pablo a little bit late in his career. Very solid from the left side, had way better power, but they both look very stiff from the right side. And it's a completely different swing. Both guys from the right side are way more compact, and they're really just singles hitters for the most part from the right side. So why not see the best of them? Even if you're having him go up against lefties, why not have him just hit from his better side and see what the at-bats look like?
Yeah.
I remember Pablo tried that at the very end. Didn't look good,
Yeah.
but that's all right. Start him now. But yeah, Eric asked, do you think if he improves his defense, they won't allow as many steals next season? The reality is, I think that's going to fall on the pitching staff. The Giants staff was absolutely horrid at holding runners. And I couldn't even blame Bailey for the vast majority of the stolen bases. Like, it just, when you don't give your catcher a chance, or you put your catcher in a position where he's going to have to put up like the number one pop time in the league and put a ball in the money to have even a prayer at the guy, it's like, you're not giving him a shot. And their staff was just terrible at holding runners. Every guy was guilty of it, like every single guy. Yeah. So maybe Bailey improves it even more, but it needs to be a team-wide point of focus next season, in my opinion, to fix that. So we're gonna kick over to the pitching side. We kind of went off on a tangent there a little bit. So biggest surprises on the pitching side. Honestly, it doesn't really matter the particular order. One is Ryan Walker. I felt like he was gonna be a really good reliever again, but I mean, I didn't think he'd be their best reliever and one of the best relievers in the National League, possibly all of baseball. I mean, he was just filthy this season. Now, I'm like waffling on this. I almost want to change one of these, but I had Landon Root in there. He actually was really, really, really solid. Outside, you throw away that last start he made, and I mean, he was at like a sub-3 ERA for the season until he gave up 6 in like 3 innings in his last start. But he was really good. And then I put Hayden Birdsong just because of where he started the season, just rocketing from Double-A all the way up to the majors, and he held his own in the majors. The command clearly needs to improve, but just kind of where he started. That's kind of why I did this relative to my expectations. And then the honorable mention was Eric Miller. I felt like he was going to be a good piece in the bullpen. I said it from way back in like December last season. I mean, I think even in November last season, I said they protected him on the 40 man, and I said I think he'll be in the pen. But I didn't expect him to be a guy getting used in big leverage situations in late innings by the end of the season. So I thought he just kind of exceeded all my expectations, how good he was overall in the season.
I think the two guys for me, other than Walker, obviously, that's the obvious one, would be both Eric Miller and Randy Rodriguez. I know Rodriguez, he struggled a little bit towards the end of the season, but I mean, he was really solid. And Rodriguez was one of those guys for anybody that's kind of followed the farm system last couple of years. Very high ceiling guy, but one of those guys that really never materialized into anything for much of his minor league career. So then when he started coming up in these really crappy situations, like bases loaded, no outs, bases loaded, 1 out, in games that sometimes were close, or he come into like these garbage time type situations, I was really impressed with his strikeout stuff, the high velo, his movement is crazy. I was really impressed, and he's one of those guys that you could see blow up in the next year or two, and he's got closer type potential. And I think you could say the same thing for Eric Miller as well. Eric Miller was a lot more steady for the Giants, and they threw him in tons of stressful late inning situations. So that was really good to see, because I think when the Giants acquired him from the Phillies a couple of years back, right away you're like, this guy could be a future closer for sure. It was just all about getting his command down, getting those walks down. The strikeout stuff has always been there.
Yeah. They got a lot of guys that could be closers, honestly, that have closer stuff. So kind of crazy. And somehow Ryan Walker is still just, you wouldn't think it, but guy's good. Maybe he's just sneaky, just dominant closer for a while. I mean, you never know when you're going to strike gold on a guy like that.
Yeah.
Dan, you got anything you want to add?
Not really able to. I just sent you guys the text.
Got to run. Oh yeah, it's that time.
Well, no, not only that, it's getting loud, man. No, you guys pretty much nailed it. But so you guys don't hear a bunch of screaming 20-year-olds, I'm gonna hop off because it's getting loud over here.
I told my wife I'd keep this to about an hour and a half anyway, so we'll get through the disappointments and then we'll probably jump.
I'll tag Ricky in like a WWE tag team partner, and I'm gonna get up out of here.
Grant, I was calling for Juan Sanchez early in the year, man. I think you remember that. I felt like he deserved it
too.
Yeah, but I think he might have gotten dinged up or something, because I don't think he pitched after like late August, so I'm not sure though. I have to look. Disappointments. I think everybody knows who number 1 would be, and I think probably most people could guess who number 2 would be. Number 1 was Camilo Duvall. I don't think I need to really go too deep onto that one, but the guy went from being an all-star to getting sent to AAA most of the way into the season. So he could not throw strikes. My joke in our text thread earlier, I almost created an award that was the most likely to get a save while throwing 0 balls in the strike zone, or 0 pitches in the strike zone, because Camilo might have been that guy. But I hope he can get right. I mean, he's a guy that could have value in a trade if he can turn it around for at least half the season. Or, if Ryan Walker just shows that he isn't quite what you need out of a closer, if Camilo gets right, he might get put back in that role. Or if someone gets hurt. I mean, I think I was talking to my dad earlier today, and my dad's like, hey, Ryan Walker could throw few innings in spring training and go, ow, my elbow, and all of a sudden you're kind of SOL at that spot. So you really could use Duvall turning it back around and figuring it out. But as far as 2024 goes, yeah, I think he was easily the most disappointing player on the entire roster to me, just given what he had been. Number 2, Jordan Hicks, which was funny because the year started so great and it just went south quick. And even his fallback of being a bullpen arm, like, just didn't work out at the end because they just thoroughly gassed his arm. So Jordan Hicks, it doesn't mean he can't end up being much better next season, but for 2024, pretty disappointing once you got past about May 10th. Number 3 in the honorable mention, I kind of waffled on because really you look at a lot of the guys in the pen, the starters did fine. The guys in the pen, they kind of held their own for the most part, even though the Rogers twins kind of frustrate everyone from time to time. They really didn't have bad years. So number 3, like, relative to my expectations for when he came up, I put Mason Black just because he was not the guy that I saw in the minors when he showed up. And yes, it's a higher level of competition. No one expects him to post those numbers, but he was more of a control guy. And all of a sudden he's throwing 92 down the middle a lot. And he was getting hit a lot, or he would just walk way too many guys. So he settled in a little bit at the end of the season, but it was pretty disappointing. And my honorable mention prior to him getting injured was Keaton Wynn. He had like 1 or 2 good outings, but he just did not impress me in a starting role at all. I'd like to see him get moved to the pen. I do believe in his stuff as a reliever, but I'm ready to throw in the towel on him starting.
Yeah. I've kind of been on that boat with Keaton Wynn for sure. I've been saying all along he's somebody that they need to try to groom into a late inning guy. I think he'd be perfect in the 7th or 8th. I think he has really good stuff for those kind of roles, but I think it's been made very clear the guy just can't consistently go deep into games. And I really feel like he's more of a 2-pitch guy. I don't feel like we've seen enough out of any additional pitches from him. So I think that's the route I would go personally with Keaton Wynn. The most disappointing for me, though, just from my expectations personally, would have been Kyle Harrison. I expected much bigger things out of him. I thought he could have been a true, like, solid number 3 starter behind Snell and Webb, especially with, Hicks coming over from the bullpen, and then also, Ray being, out most of the season. And we kind of already knew that going in. So for me, it's Harrison for sure. I would have liked to see him not only show that he can handle a little bit bigger workload this year, even if it meant getting shut down a little bit later into the year. But I think also just, the command was off. I was very unimpressed with his breaking ball for most of the year. I thought it was a pitch that looked like it was really easy to see right out of the hand off the bat for a lot of hitters. Obviously, the fastball is elite, so that's always something you got to rely on. But Harrison's a guy like I view as a future number 1. So, like, for me, it was just really disappointing seeing that. So I'm really hoping for a big bounce back from him next year and trying to see him get that command down. So we're not stuck with like 4 guys that throw only into the 5th inning and just struggle to put guys away. So Harrison's at the top of my list for sure on the pitching side.
Yeah. You know what? I totally forgot about Kyle Harrison when I was whipping that list together. He would probably have taken that one of those spots as well on my list. I mean, and I totally agree. And it's funny with the fastball that the fastball is definitely elite, even though he was throwing it like 90. Guys just don't hit it. It's
just
insane.
deceptive.
Yeah, exactly. It's super. It's kind of it's a little bit Jonathan Sanchez-esque, where it's like almost kind of a Sanchez had that kind of lazy arm delivery that it's like it just jumped on people. So maybe it's that. Yeah, I mean, has your opinion on him changed as far as, like, I know you said you viewed him as a future number 1. Do you still think that he can be that, or do you think he's more likely going to be like a mid-rotation guy at best?
I mean, it seems easy to say that he's more likely to be a mid rotation guy right now, but I still do believe his ceiling is as a number one because if you can put guys away with a fastball, I mean, that's a great start to, something to build off of. And I don't think he's a guy that just can't develop secondary pitches at all. I mean, I think his changeup's been a work in progress, and we saw him try to utilize that a little bit more late in the season. I still think he's got a lot of work to do with that pitch. And I think he truly needs to figure out what he's going to do with his breaking ball going forward. If he's going to keep that slurvy breaking ball, or if he's going to do like something I've talked to you about, which is throw a little bit harder of a slider. Personally, that's what I would do with how solid his fastball is, and then just use the changeup also to play off that fastball.
Yeah.
And
I think he has two
especially
good
cut it
pitches
a
right
little
now.
bit more.
Yeah. Because the changeup showed nicely, but and yeah, and you're right. I mean, it's like he could show up next season. They could have revamped his slider or something, and all of a sudden it's like this guy's unhittable. Like I do think he needs to tighten up his we'll call it his spray chart in the zone. I think he needs to tighten that up a little bit. An award that I joked about in our group chat was if the Giants had a most likely to earhole left-handed hitter, it was going to be Kyle Harrison by a landslide. But
Bryce Harper.
Oh God, yeah. I was like, if this guy throws Bryce Harper another fastball, they might be fishing Harrison out of the cove later. In that game.
Oh man.
But yeah, I think if he tightens it up just a little bit, because I mean that's my biggest gripe with Harrison is just just completely uncompetitive pitches that he throws. Like he just wastes pitches, because he's just so like he'll miss the zone by 2 feet, and it's just that's the stuff that I think he needs to tighten up. If he can tighten it up the command a little bit, I mean he's always going to walk guys. He's not going to ever be a perfect command guy, and frankly, he has the stuff that he can miss in the middle of the zone from time to time. Like he can get away with it with that fastball, but I think he does need to if he gets a better slider and just tightens it up, that front end rotation stuff is there. Like the potential is there for sure. So, yeah, no, Harrison definitely would have been on my list if I did a double check on that.
And going on to what you're talking about with the spray chart thing, I think that's going to be the huge point of emphasis specifically is him tunneling pitches. Is you see a lot of guys that break down pitchers on YouTube. It's tunneling pitches, having everything come out of the same arm slot, and having all of your pitches come in down that same tunnel, and then you have your slider break one way, down and into a righty for him. And then your changeup playing off of that and then breaking away from a righty, and then your fastball going up the middle. Everything's coming out that same tunnel, but every pitch at the last second is going a complete opposite direction. That's the big thing for him, because right now, when we're talking about him not putting away opposing hitters, it's because that slurve is coming, way out to the side. You're seeing it come out of the hand right away. You identify that's not a fastball. And then they're sitting on it, and then they're just jumping on you. So that's his issue. It's ultimately part of what you get when you get a guy fresh out of high school that hasn't played that high level of college baseball where he would be learning these things. And then you're rushing him through the minors because he's so dominant with just that fastball specifically. So very, very correctable things with a young guy like him for sure.
Yeah. That's a good one, Ed. I will say Rogers, for as much as he frustrates people at times, he gets some of the ugliest swings I've ever seen out of major league hitters. He makes some professional hitters look just absolutely stupid sometimes, and it's hilarious. So yeah, that's a good pull.
72 miles an hour. It's wild seeing that. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. You're throwing it from a weird angle when you can do that at 72. But yeah, no, for sure. No, I agree. I mean, I always felt like with that slurve or whatever, it always felt like you said, it's coming out way wide, but it always felt like it's almost loopy. Like it's almost like if you throw a curveball up in the zone and you see that ball like come out up a little bit, and it's like it doesn't fool anybody. And like to your point, like you see it early, and I think part of why I want to see a sharper breaking pitch, whether it's vertically or horizontally, is I don't feel like he's as effective against lefties as he could be. I mean, he from that delivery with his stuff, like he should absolutely dominate left-handed hitters. Like not even just normal, like, oh, a lefty is tough on like no, like he should dominate left-handed hitters, and he doesn't. And I think just doing that, he would take a massive step forward if he could just get to that point. So, but
yeah, his arm side command has definitely been his biggest weakness when it comes to that. So that's ultimately one of the many things he's got to look at. But I if I were him, I'd really look at some old Bumgarner tape, man, and really work off of a lot of what he did, because arm slot's pretty similar, and he could learn a lot from the way Bumgarner pitched. Because I mean, for a lot of his career, same thing as Harrison. It's not like Bumgarner was starting games and coming out throwing 98, 99. The guy was a lot of times throwing 92, 93 with his fastball, but he's just cutting it right in on guys' hands. And he did have a pretty long, somewhat loopy slider at times, but it played off of his cutter very well and really worked well against right-handed hitters in particular.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll see. But I think that's all I really got for tonight. Don't have much going on. Like we've told everybody, we're going to be doing these live shows every week, kind of regardless. So, we just wanted to have a little bit of fun with today's episode. Nothing too crazy. So, if you guys have anything you want us to touch on, let us know. We're gonna call it for today, though. I told my wife I'd get this thing wrapped up here sooner than later, so we'll get this going for today. But if you guys have any ideas for videos that you want to see here in the near future, let me know. We'll any topics you want me to cover, or all of us, for the live show next week. I'm hoping that the World Series will probably be still going, hopefully, because I don't want to see a Dodgers sweep, but hopefully it's still going, come next Friday, whenever Thursday or Friday, whenever we record next week. But we'll keep it going and figure out kind of what we're going to be putting out for the next week or so until the off season officially gets underway and we can actually start talking about some good stuff. Hopefully they hire a GM. I think that'd be the first hope.
Yeah, for sure. I fully expect that to be coming shortly after the World Series ends. That'll give us plenty to talk about. And are you still thinking around 950 for the giveaway? 950 subscribers?
Yeah, to announce
to
at least what we're doing.
That?
Yeah, I think so. We're at like 898 right now. So anybody watching, we're on the quest for 900. So really it's the quest for 1K, but hey, we're almost to 900. So if you want to hit that button, go for it.
Absolutely.
All right, man. I'm gonna cut it off now. I hope everyone has a good night. Go Yankees. It's not good. We're not signing off with Go Giants today. It's just Go Yankees. I don't want to deal with Dodger fans. So
no.
All right. Take it easy, everyone.
All right, man.